Lord Drone, the second teaser for episode 7 has released.
Finally, we are so back. Took them about 3 months.
Speaking of, you've been gone for so long. What happened? Handling the new people at the mansion? Personal stuff?
I went out for ice cream.
Excuse me?
Yes, I suddenly got an email telling me that I won a free ice cream by the forest. Word of advice: never accept ice cream from strangers.
Did you die?
Episode 7 teaser. Version 2. Electric Boogaloo. Yes, finally. After a total of 210 days without any murder drones news, we finally got the second teaser, and the release date for episode 7. And what's more, this second episode 7 teaser is actually pretty special as well, because much like teaser 1, it has actual shots that are straight from episode 7 too. Needless to say, this makes things much more interesting lore-wise. So, after watching and re-watching both this second teaser and teaser 1 a total of 27 times, I want to analyze this trailer frame by frame. And for this one particular occasion, I have 2 main disclaimers. The first one is that there are many frames of this teaser with a very distinct red tint effect. Of course, these are not how the shots will be presented once episode 7 is released. How can we be so sure? Let's take this specific frame. If you remember well, you might just realize that this one specific scene was also used in the first teaser, with no red tint whatsoever. The same can be said of this other frame in teaser 2 for example. Take notice of the lamppost on the left, or the car on the right. Judging by the setting, it seems that this one frame takes place right outside Use's colony in Outpost 3. That area uses much more colder colors and lighting. So yeah, all of the frames in teaser 2 have a red tint, only used for trailer purposes. In fact, there's a case to be made as to whether red tint was intentionally used to leave the coloring of some frames unclear. But I digress. The second disclaimer, of course, is that all of these shots, much like teaser 1, are completely out of order. Unfortunately, much to our dismay, we cannot place them into a coherent timeline. Or, can we?
Do you want my head delivered to your door in a box?
Yes, you heard that right. This teaser offers so many episode 7 frames that we can actually compose all of the narrative events in episode 7, from the very beginning of the episode, down to the very end. With the help of teaser 1, as well as other footage, we can outright spoil ourselves, and know how episode 7 will be about without ever having watched it before. This is how we'll do the teaser analysis for today. I will order and analyze the footage as we go along with it. We'll predict the entirety of Murder Drones episode 7, inspecting the different frames as we go along through them. Are you ready? Because oh boy, this episode is jam-packed with lore. So, let's begin by the very first minutes of episode 7. Episode 7 will begin where episode 6 ended, right by the elevator fault. If you guys remember episode 6, then you probably remember that V fucking died. V was mauled by sentinel drones. She was attacked when she was this close to the elevator, and so, judging by this establishing shot, that would put V right over here. Now, as you can see, there's a trail of oil on the floor. This trail of oil was already in episode 6, so there's no surprises there. Still, where is V right now? Well, I have a hunch that V might have been dragged by the sentinels back into the power plant facility. How can I be so sure? Well, this was precisely the sentinel drones' behavior back in episode 6. Alice would guide them to attack any possible targets, and then the sentinel drones would drag them into the office. Alice would later extract the most valuable drone parts to herself, keeping any corrupted cores in an oven so as to not have any possible creepy worms. When Alice was done extracting parts, she would leave the drone remains by the main lobby, which is the reason we saw multiple dismembered or mutilated drones in the entrance back in episode 6. So, this shot heavily implies that V has been dragged around by sentinels. However, unlike other disassembly drones, her parts will not be extracted this time. Because Alice is fucking dead. Alice was killed by a sentinel drone in episode 6. And so, from here, we have two options. 1. That V regenerates her wounds with her solver powers. Or 2. That she sustained so much damage that she became a creepy worm. In either case, we shouldn't expect V to appear much in the episode, if at all. Nala Klopp, the voice actor for V, hasn't recorded any new lines for the character for this episode. The only line from her that we are going to hear is this one laugh from the first episode 7 teaser. So, out of the two possible options, the first one seems more plausible to me. It is likely that V will appear alongside Jay for backup in episode 8 to assist in the final battle against the Absolute Solver. Now, why would Tessa need any backup to begin with? Well, things come at a time. Let's keep predicting, shall we? After that small intro, we get back to our main trio. The elevator crashes underground, and from then on, we will see our main characters go through these mines. As they progress through the mines, they will come across these lockers from the many cabin fever labs test subjects. For one, it is safe to say that these lockers are in the mines, as we can still see the tunnel walls in the background. For two, we can see the name of another cabin fever labs test subject, seemingly named Triss. All of these test subjects would leave their belongings here, as they are called from the office down to the church area. After all, we do know from the episode 6 camera footage that they were free to roam from one place to the other. And for 3, we can also see that my freaking OCD is acting up. How in the world is locker 048 right next to locker 024? Seriously, why is 002's locker right next to 029's? Did JC Jensen even care? Okay, back to analyzing. Tessa will open Nora's locker, and she will find it completely empty. After a quick pause, the main trio is confronted by Doll, threatening them that they should not follow her any longer. After a small kerfuffle, Doll leaves the scene to advance on her own. However, just right after, Tessa then decides to put the fate of the universe over one little drone. As promised in episode 6, she shoots Yuzi straight in the eye, knowing that Yuzi cannot use solver powers to defend herself. Again, we do know that these scenes still happen in the mines, as the wooden planks of the background are still there. Tessa's attack on Yuzi leaves N surprised. As she draws her sword to kill Yuzi, N has the impulse to run with Yuzi further down the mines, leaving Tessa completely behind. And so, we'll get this mine shaft scene soon after, riddled with solver corruption. As Yuzi gets closer to it, she will get dragged by creepy absolute solver hands into the area below. Either that, or she created the hole herself with solver powers, in an attempt to flee from Tessa. As she becomes partially corrupted, perhaps she generates the creepy hands that eventually drag N through the tunnel as well. It wouldn't be the first time a worker drone can generate eldritch limbs after all. As N comes to his senses, he finds the next big area of the episode, the cabin fever labs. Yes, this one church is the cabin fever labs, and we knew this already from teaser 1. If you remember teaser 1, we had this one scene, in which we could read lab space for rent in a banner. This can also be found at the beginning of episode 6, as Tessa clears out the snow from a board. The words for rent are written down, leading to this one church area to be the main testing ground for JC Jensen scientists. However, here's where I make a small leap of faith. When N comes to the church, we will not see it in the same way as it is presented here. This is just a hunch, but I don't think it will be raining in the church when the episode begins, nor do I believe there will be yellow lights coming out of it. Instead, I think this church will have its lights completely out, and there will be no rain at all once N enters. Both the rain and the yellow lights will happen by the end of the episode. Why do I think this way? Well, once again, things come at a time. You'll see soon enough. So, N enters the cabin fever labs. As we know, it used to be a research facility dedicated to understanding the absolute solver. We can see several monitors and computer areas throughout the facility, and solver corruption seeping throughout the corners of the cathedral. This area used to be a testing ground, but now seems to be the prime origin of Copper-9's infection. Let's take a look at the entrance again. We can see a very distinct floor tiling, as well as wooden barrels. Wouldn't you know, This coincides with the following scene in the episode, where Yuzi and En find each other. They give each other a hug, with Yuzi seemingly scared. Chances are that she's afraid of her own powers. However, in just a minute, they hear an odd noise coming from further down the hallway. And from here on, the shenanigans ensue. Yuzi and En take notice of yet another hole in the ground with huge solver corruption. As the tentacles from the Absolute Solver try to reach them, En and Yuzi will run around the cathedral trying to find a safe spot from the eldritch monster. Just a tad later, they find refuge into this office room. In here, Yuzi will get all of her answers by watching a recording of footage from one of the lead scientists in charge of the testing in cabin fever labs. The lead researcher, as we can see in this frame, is called Dr. Chambers. He wore a camera on his hat, unlike all other researchers at the time, in order to document his findings. At this point in the episode, we are treated to a full flashback of how the J.C. Jensen scientists made experiments on the different cabin fever labs test subjects. For example, in this shot, we see Dr. Chambers staring down at a set of claws. Of course, if you have a keen eye, you'll realize quickly that these claws belong to the eldritch form of the Absolute Solver. We can see the same shape of the hand and claws, as well as the same set of spikes coming from the Absolute Solver's hand. We can see it slowly glitching out, with steam coming out of the hand as it fades away. This leads me to believe that this is the moment Dr. Chambers finds sunlight to be one of the main weaknesses of the Absolute Solver, as we could see in episode 4. Still, the J.C. Jensen scientists did do more brutal testing to their subjects. In this one frame, we can see one of the test subjects being harpooned and chained from 7 different spots. It seems that the J.C. Jensen scientists wanted to test the Absolute Solver's endurance to heavy damage before turning into an eldritch being. Through testing, a possible cure for the Absolute Solver was finally found, seemingly in the form of this crucifix. With this one crucifix, the J.C. Jensen scientists knew they could cure all of the subjects, thus ending the experiment altogether and stopping the threat of the Absolute Solver for good. Unfortunately, by then, it was already too late. If my core collapse theory is correct, Nori and Yeva, fully possessed by the Absolute Solver, start causing rampage in the cabin fever labs. They start killing the scientists one by one, fully swarming the facility with corruption. And then, with Dr. Chambers being the last one standing, one of the 2 drones snatch the crucifix from him. Dr. Chamber dies, too ambitious in his own word. Later on, as my own theory suggests, they would escape the facilities, causing Copper-9's core collapse on their way. And so, that's what we would see in episode 7. Nori and Yeva, the main culprits of Copper-9's demise. But what if I told you that this is not the only flashback we are going to get in this episode? What if there's something else? So, after En and Yuzi stare down at this footage, En will likely have a slip of the tongue regarding Nori. Swayed by Tessa's betrayal earlier in the episode, this will lead Yuzi to pry En's mind, using her solver powers. From then on, we will get a second flashback, this time about En's arrival to Copper-9 as the spaceship lands. As he comes out of the spaceship, we will get this one specific shot from the end dog ad. Considering the animation quality, this shot is likely to be repurposed in episode 7. After this establishing shot, En's visor changes into the X symbol as indicated by this frame. So yeah, this one frame doesn't happen in the cathedral, but rather, it happens in the wrecked city of Outpost 3. En will be revealed to have caused several killing sprees along Copper-9 before meeting Yuzi, and of course, like the entire fandom expects, in episode 7, it will finally be revealed that En has killed Nori with nanite acid. Whether this was done in self-defense or not, it doesn't really matter to Yuzi. By then, Yuzi will feel completely alone. No one is there to save her from herself, and she will feel forced to abandon the one drone she didn't ask to abandon back in episode 4. After knowing the truth about En, Yuzi then makes a run for the crucifix. From here on out, it's a race against time. When En comes to again, he'll be met with Tessa in the office room, waking up next to her once more. She'll implore him to accompany her. As we cut back to Yuzi, we will see her stumbling around the cathedral in search of the crucifix. Eventually, she finds it around the altar room, along with Doll. After a small conversation, doll will take off her eye patch, revealing to Yuzi that she too is slowly falling to full possession, and that she too needs the crucifix to survive. Her right eye is fully yellow, just like we saw for Yuzi by the ending of episode 6. However, instead of moving forward together, both of them engage in battle for the crucifix, aware that they cannot use their powers at all. In the midst of the battle, N and Tessa arrive for support. However, N stops any attempt from Tessa to engage, as it could hurt Yuzi and make things worse. As Yuzi and Doll start using their absolute solver powers against one another, N finally intervenes, coming in clutch to incapacitate Doll. With the way completely clear, N lets Yuzi run over to the crucifix. And with that, Yuzi is finally safe from corruption. The nightmare is over at last. Or at least, so N thought.
Thanks for giving me the planet, friggin' idiot.
By then, it's been too late. Yuzi falls to true possession, and at just about the same time, Doll also wakes up fully possessed, both of them with the yellow solver symbol. Both drones head to the huge solver hole on the ground, over which all of the cabin fever labs test subjects are waiting for them, ready for an admin to enact the Singularity. As all of the drones activate their powers, the cathedral ruptures in yellow lightning. The reality-bending powers of the absolute solver warp the space inside the cave, causing rain to fall from above. The effects of the Singularity are felt all over Copper-9, and we will get scenes like this one in Outpost 3, with characters like Thad or Izzy reacting to the sudden gravity shift. Tessa and N gaze in awe at the world ending before their eyes. The Singularity has finally begun. Okay, so that would be the whole plot of episode 7. What do you think?
I think it's pretty solid. That being said, I do have a simple question.
Of course. Where is best character? Indeed, we haven't talked about Sin in the entirety of this teaser breakdown. So, where would she be? Well, according to my combined Sin theory, it is expected that the absolute solver will discard Sin as its true host, as Sin has been actively hampering the absolute solver's hold over the disassembly drones with her admin rights, in an attempt to free herself from true possession. After Yuzi restored N and V's memories in episode 5, she replaced Sin with herself as the admin, and this ultimately led to her corruption getting faster in episode 6. The full reasoning for this theory is in the cards in the description. So, if this theory were to be correct, we might see Sin by the end of the episode. In the solver hole by the cathedral, the absolute solver would discard Sin and take Yuzi as a true host instead. Either that, or the switch happens in episode 8, with Sin's appearance as the main cliffhanger for episode 7. That'd be my best bet for episode 7. Whether it manifests to reality or not, we will see in just a few days' time. Alright, that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching. And yes, before you ask, I will make an episode 7 breakdown a couple weeks after it releases. Make sure to stay tuned for that. In the meantime, why don't you hang out in our Discord server? We will do a live watch along of all Murder Drones episodes, along with the live restreaming of episode 7 for all of us to enjoy. If you want to join in the chaos in the Elliott Mansion, then check the invite by the pinned comment below. We will gladly be waiting for you. Right then. See ya.